Are you sure this is the way?
Something small keeps interrupting the ear before the eye adjusts, a dry scrape repeating where light feels uneven, and the body hesitates without deciding why. Space presses people close enough that waiting sharpens, shoulders angle, and attention stays fixed on gaps that appear briefly, then vanish without signal. A rope tightens once near stone and waterwood tapping softly as sound changes weight and the air turns cooler without opening any room to linger. Still. Movement continues anyway, drawn forward by pressure rather than choice into spaces that do not explain themselves. Footsteps meet stone before faces are noticed. The ground answers each step with a short scrape. Walls stand close enough to thin the light. Windows sit low and uninviting along the passage. People approach without greeting and adjust without pause. Shoulders turn slightly to allow space to pass. Cloth brushes cloth, then separates again. Sound arrives early and lingers behind movement. A cartwheel grinds somewhere beyond the turn. The lane bends and tightens without warning. Breath shortens as bodies draw nearer together. Hands stay close to sides to avoid contact. The air smells damp where stone never fully dries. Footsteps slow, without anyone choosing to slow. A pause forms where two directions hesitate. No signal marks who moves first. Someone shifts weight and the gap opens briefly. Movement resumes with the same quiet pressure. The lane releases into a busier edge. Voices overlap before faces can be counted. Stalls press outward from both sides. Ropes stretch low across the path. Goods hang at shoulder height and sway slightly. People weave through with practiced turns. A child slips between legs and disappears ahead. Metal taps stone once and echoes unevenly. Smells thicken where food rests in open air. The ground feels slick from constant passage. Feet learn where to land without looking. A body stops suddenly and others compress behind it. Waiting sharpens. Instead of easing, eyes track openings that close just as quickly. The press loosens and tightens again. Sound grows heavy at the center of the crowd. Words blur into rhythm rather than meaning. Light breaks in fragments between moving forms. Hands reach out, then withdraw. A narrow opening draws movement sideways. The market edge gives way to stone again. Steps echo longer as space clears. An open courtyard holds stillness without quiet. A basin reflects broken light from above. Water rests but never fully settles. People stand angled toward unseen exits. No one claims the center for long. A gate stands half open without invitation. Those waiting watch hands and feet, not faces. Time stretches without stopping anything. A messenger crosses quickly and is gone. Others remain where they are. Sound thins but does not leave. A cough travels farther than expected. The air cools in the shade of walls. Movement resumes in small adjustments. Steps lead outward through another passage. Light expands suddenly at the far end. The ground opens and reflects more sound. The edge of a square comes into view. People cross without lingering. Uniformed figures remain at a distance. Attention scatters in the open space. Pace quickens without instruction. The body holds tension even as space widens. The scrape of stone still follows each step. Sound remains close even as space opens. Light feels wider but less reliable. The ground hardens and returns sharper echoes. People cross the open edge without slowing. No one meets the center directly. Movement angles around unseen lines. A voice calls out and dissolves into distance. The body stays alert after leaving the crowd. Air moves more freely but carries chill. Cloth flutters briefly, then settles. Footsteps scatter instead of clustering. A sudden stillness sharpens attention. The square does not hold it for long. Paths pull movement toward narrower exits. Stone rises again along the edges. The open space is left behind without notice. Another passage narrows the shoulders. Light drops quickly between walls. Sound gathers strength once more. The smell of damp returns. Hands return closer to the body. A line forms where the ground slopes. People pause without speaking. Weight shifts from foot to foot. Breath fogs faintly in the cooler air. No one asks what is being waited for. A rope tightens across the way. Wood scrapes once as it is adjusted. The line eases and movement resumes. Steps descend slightly. The texture underfoot changes. Stone feels smoother here. Water is heard before it is seen. A faint tapping repeats at uneven intervals. The passage opens toward a lower stretch. Air smells heavier near the ground. The sound of water presses upward. Bodies lean forward without deciding to. The river edge sits just below the path. Boats hold position through effort. Ropes strain and relax in slow rhythm. Wood taps stone again. People pass without stopping to look. Eyes flick down, then return to footing. The path remains narrow despite the open water. A misstep would travel far. Movement tightens instinctively. Clothing brushes rough walls again. The water reflects broken light upward. Shadows ripple across stone faces. The sound of footsteps blends with tapping ropes. A pause forms near a moored boat. Someone waits for clearance that is not announced. The body feels the delay before understanding it. The opening comes and closes quickly. Movement threads through. The river remains close but unreachable. A low barrier discourages lingering. Attention stays divided between ground and edge. Voices are fewer here. Each sound travels longer. The body holds quiet tension. The path rises slightly away from the water. Smell thins as air dries. Stone warms where light reaches it. Steps grow more confident but not relaxed. Another threshold approaches ahead. Gates stand open without invitation. Uniforms appear briefly at the side. Eyes lower as bodies pass. No exchange follows. Sound dulls beyond the gate. The space tightens again inside. Light becomes directional. Footsteps return to a steady scrape. The earlier openness lingers in the body. Movement continues forward without reflection. Stone still holds warmth where light reached it last. The scrape of footsteps sounds heavier indoors. Air settles quickly without moving far. The body notices the ceiling before the walls. Space lowers expectations without signaling it. People pass closer here without touching. Cloth brushes stone and pulls away. Sound dulls but does not disappear. Each step feels measured against the floor. A pause gathers near an interior corner. No one marks it as a place to stop. Movement slows anyway. Light arrives from one side only. Faces remain indistinct in the narrow glow. Hands adjust bundles without looking down. A door opens briefly and closes again. The sound lingers longer than the opening. Air shifts, then stills. Someone exhales sharply and moves on. The corridor bends without revealing what follows. Footsteps ahead echo once, then fade. The ground slopes almost imperceptibly. Balance adjusts before thought catches up. Walls feel closer without changing distance. A faint smell of oil clings to the space. The body carries river dampness a moment longer. It fades as stone dries. Movement continues without choosing pace. A threshold appears through altered sound. Steps lose echo beyond it. Light thins again. The space opens just enough to change posture. People spread slightly, then compress. No one claims more room than needed. A watchful silence settles between movements. The absence of noise sharpens small sounds. Fabric shifts. A heel clicks once, then stops. Someone waits for space to clear. The clearance comes without notice. Movement resumes. A narrow opening draws bodies through one by one. The wall here feels smoother. Hands brush it for balance. The air cools again. Breath becomes more audible. Another corridor extends forward. Its length is unclear. Light repeats in small intervals along it. Each pool of brightness holds briefly, then passes. The body tracks these changes without naming them. Steps remain steady. Fatigue registers in calves and shoulders. No one slows enough to rest. The space does not allow it. Sound from behind fades completely. Only forward movement remains audible. A faint draft suggests an opening ahead. It does not widen yet. The corridor holds its shape. The body stays alert without reason. Footsteps continue into the dim stretch.